Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Prep Life. Let's talk about the situation in China and how I think it could lead off to World War III. Well, Mike, there's no way it could lead to World War III. What are you talking about? There's a lot of things going on in the world that you need to know. I got your back, though. If you went into the national media, you would likely find more on keeping up with the Kardashians than you would with actual news that's going on in the world, especially news that's going to affect you. Well, it's certainly affecting you now because your taxpayer dollars are paying for it. But congratulations, here we are because you potentially voted Biden in. I digress, but seriously, the most incompetent president of our time, of my time at least, on this earth, is leading us into World War III because of his cognitive decline and his incompetent administration. Yep, I said it. I'll be political because it needs to be said. So you could keep up with the Kardashians, but you can't keep up with foreign policy news that potentially is going to affect you when we go into World War III. So China's new foreign minister, Qin Gang, warned Tuesday that conflict and confrontation with the United States is inevitable if Washington doesn't change its course. Washington is the administration, which is President Biden. Now, you'd think that would be headline news all over the world when China, one of the world's superpowers, is saying, yeah, conflict and confrontation, we're doing that if you don't change course. Now, what you can't find on the surface of most of these articles are the details. He says, and I quote, "If the United States does not hit the brakes but continues to speed down the wrong path, no amount of guardrails can prevent derailing, and there will surely be conflict and confrontation." And he goes on to virtue signal some more, but I think he means it because it's China, right? It's China, a superpower. Now, China is about to give lethal support authority to their government to support the war in Ukraine by supporting Russians. Like they're going to offer Russians the help they need, including potentially troops. Like this is not a new thing. And you're probably like, what are you talking about? Like what's going on? Guys, this is the exact same thing that happened to have happened in Korea. In Korea. I myself happen to be very close to this issue because I'm a product of the Forgotten War, fought in 1950 to 1953, 70 years ago. And how does that compare and contrast to what's going on now? Well, here it is. You know why it's called the Forgotten War? It's forgotten because nobody wanted to remember something so politically divisive, where tens of thousands of Americans lost their lives. You could look up this stat. I might get it wrong, but it's like 5, 6, 7,000 Americans that we left behind in North Korea when we pulled the plug because we set a line in the sand called the demilitarized zone and said, yeah, let's just call a truce a truce. Why? We didn't want another world war with China, a superpower, and Russia, a superpower. Guys, there were Russian fighter pilots in North Korean uniforms flying Russian MiGs that were decorated with North Korean insignia. Yeah, that's proxy written all over it. So we weren't just at war with the North Koreans, we were at war with communism. Communist superpowers, China, Russia, and North Korea. You see, after World War II, when we dropped bombs on Japan, they pulled out of Korea because they occupied it. 13% of my genetic profile is Japanese because of that occupation. So when that happened, we were like, who's going to take control of this? And we want them to have a democracy. We want them to live free like America, except the communists didn't want that. So we went to war in 1950, and we fought a campaign, and we fought it hard, and we lost a lot of good Americans. And then it was forgotten about because we called a truce. We just said, yeah, we're just going to pull out of here. So how do we think Ukraine is going to fare in conflict when we're fighting a proxy war against Russia, against China, and who's going to fare well at the end of this? Well, the North Koreans that wanted to be free didn't fare well because they're living currently in oppression, starving to death. An entire country and its population is starving to death because we drew our line in the sand. So what's going to happen with Ukraine? This and these are examples of where we have not learned our lesson. Now, the reason I say there's a prospect for World War III, because we don't know what this means strategically, and the American people don't understand how this fares. At the end of 2 years, if the conflict is not over, then the next president of the United States is going to be handed a shit sandwich, and he's going to have to figure it out, or she is going to have to figure it out. But what are we going to do in the next 2 years? Guys, we have 2 years of this remaining. We have the worst foreign policy in the history of my lifetime, at least, and according to history books, like ever. And we have the foreign minister of China saying, hey, like, conflict's inevitable. If you guys can't pull your head out of your ass, here we go. Like, let's go. We're kickstart this. And why would that be detrimental for our society? Well, because most Americans aren't paying attention to what's going on because you just don't care. Since the national media and the Inquirer, I'm outdating myself here, the Inquirer, I don't even know if that exists, but TMZ isn't covering it, you're not paying attention. It's like this article that I covered on Instagram that was ABC releasing this post that said, here, and I quote, it says, keto-like diet linked to higher risk of heart disease, new research shows. Well, the comments are like, duh, how is this a new study? Have these people been living under a rock? I've never understood the keto diet. It always seemed unhealthy to me. Duh. These are bots, by the way. My doc literally told me to avoid all animal fat, pig, cow, and all products, which is butter, milk, and cheese. So how did all these keto followers think their diet was going to be sustainable? I often wondered this. My mother is doing diets like this, and for the last 30 years, I tell her I don't think that is right. God, bots need to get their AI sorted. No crap emoji, Sherlock. Bacon to me is not keto. It's not healthy at all. Turkey, chicken, vegetables for me. Oh, well, people go, half of you might even go, well, what do you mean? Like, how does this pertain to what's going on? Well, it pertains to what's going on because ABC is owned by Disney, and Disney is owned by a mega huge, I'll call it a group of mega owners, billionaires and trillionaires. It's trillions of dollars that are being funneled through these companies to include people who run and operate Coca-Cola. Name the sugary company. So why would this matter? Because it's not true. Number one, the study called low carbohydrate diet, 25% of your overall diet. That's not low carbohydrates. If 25% of your plate per meal is carbohydrates and you call that low carbohydrate, that's not keto, because keto doesn't include carbohydrates nearly at all because you have to go into ketosis. So the entire national media headline for this is propaganda. Most of the news that you're reading is propaganda. But you read this, you buy into it, and if you keep the people fat and happy, you keep them slow and dumb. And that's the state of affairs we're living in. So are you paying attention to foreign policy? Are you paying attention to what's going on in China and Russia and Ukraine? No, because you don't care. And I get it. If you're like working your day to day, you're just trying to make ends meet because we're going to be in a recession for sure by the end of 2023, according to every economist in the country, in the world, then why would you care? I don't expect you to care. But you know what this is? This is like the 1950s when we didn't pay attention, we didn't care, and we forgot about the tens of thousands of Americans that died in the Korean War. And then you know what we did next in the 50s? We went off and strode off into another war called the Vietnam War. And how did that fare for us? Well, it fared like the economy was in shambles. We spit on American soldiers coming back, and we had the worst crime statistics in the country because we weren't paying attention. You should pay attention. You should. We didn't pay attention with the pandemic, with COVID, with all the things going on in the world. Now we should likely pay attention to what's going on in the world. Don't buy into the politics of the national media's propaganda. Pay attention to small resources of people who are contextualizing facts, giving you the deeply seated truth and the things that you should be paying attention to. It's why I follow guys like Tucker Carlson, who, yes, he's going against the grain. He's getting shit on. We think January 6th was an insurrection when obviously, transparently, based on all the information and the evidence, it was a bunch of dummies walking on Capitol Hill, running into the Capitol building, doing dumb stuff, getting rolled up by the U.S. government, and here we are looking at them like this is some counter-insurgency warfare campaign against some conspiracy. No, it's a bunch of dummies doing dumb shit. You know what you should be paying attention to is Antifa. Or how about the Marxist movement, BLM? But we won't talk about that because it's too sensitive. That's all I got, man. I'm out. Peace out, guys.